The note was written in her looping, careless cursive on the back of my own anniversary card. These suit me better. I stood in the doorway of my bedroom safe. The velvet trays empty, the air still smelling faintly of the rosewater I sprayed inside each morning. My fingers trembled against the small square of heavy cream paper. The gold foil from our 40th still glinting under the vanity bulb. $200,000 me, mother's rubies, my grandmother's pearls, the emerald tennis bracelet Victor had clasped around my wrist the night he in their place, only the ghost of her perfume. Something sharp and expensive, like crushed green apples left too long in the sun. I didn't scream. I didn't even sit down. I just stood there, barefoot, on the cool tile, listening to the hum of the air conditioner and the distant crash of waves from the open balcony doors. Miami at dawn is soft, all pastels and salt. But that morning, the light felt harsh, like it was shining a spotlight on everything I'd missed. Let me take you back before the note, before the empty safe, before the quiet click of the balcony door at 3:17 a.m. that I'd mistaken for the wind. My name is Anita Rossi, 60 years old, jeweler by trade, widow by circumstance, mother to one son, Marco, who still calls me M.A., even though he towers over me now. I live in a coral pink stucco house in Coconut Grove, the one Victor and I bought the year Marco started kindergarten. The bougainvillea climbs the archway like it's trying to hug the roof, and the mango tree in the back drops fruit so sweet the squirrels fight over it. Mornings used to begin with coffee on the patio. The Cuban kind Victor taught me to brew in the little aluminum pot that hisses like an angry cat. I'd sit in my wicker chair, sketchpad on my lap, designing pieces for the shop Anita's. Adornments on Miracle Mile. The store smells of polished silver and the lavender oil I dab on the display cloths. Customers linger because it feels like stepping into someone's living room, not a boutique. I like it that way. Marco comes by most Sundays with his wife Lila. They've been married 3 years at a yacht party in South Beach. The kind where the champagne flows and the regrets come later. Lila is 32, all long legs and honey blonde hair that catches the light like spun gold. She wears my son like a trophy and calls me Anita instead of Mom, which I told myself was modern. Victor would have hated it. He died 5 years ago, sudden, a heart attack while tightening the clasp on a customer's necklace. I still set his coffee cup out sometimes, out of habit. The house is full of him. His tools in the garage studio where I work late into the night. His laugh in the echo of the hallway when Marco tells a story. The way the floorboards creak in the same spot outside our bedroom hissed spot. I kept everything after he passed, even the half-finished ring on his bench, a solitaire he was setting for our 40th. I finished it myself, wore it every day, until the band wore thin. Marco and Lila live 20 minutes away in a glass condo on Brickell, the kind with a concierge who knows your dry cleaning preferences. They're always between projects. He's in real estate development. She's a brand ambassador, which means she posts pictures of handbags and gets paid for it. They borrow money the way other people borrow sugar. I never minded. Victor and I built the business from nothing. Sharing felt like love. Lila started coming to the house alone last year. Said she wanted to learn the craft. I'd find her in the studio, trying on rings, holding pendants to the light. She'd twirl, the gems flashing against her collarbones, and ask, "Don't you think this would look amazing with that red dress I wore to the gala?" I'd laugh, tell her to be careful, that some pieces were older than she was. She'd pout, but her eyes were always calculating, like she was pricing more than beauty. The first clue wasn't missing jewelry. It was the way she stopped asking. It started small. A pair of gold hoops I kept in the dish by the front door gone. I thought I'd misplaced them. Then the sapphire brooch Victor's mother wore to every family wedding. I found the empty box in the guest room trash, lined with tissue like it had been given. I asked Leela about it when she came for brunch. She was slicing mango, the knife flashing. "Oh, Anita, I borrowed it for a shoot. Must have left it at the studio." Her smile was bright, practiced. "I'll bring it back next week." It never came back. I started locking the safe. Not because I didn't trust Herbie, 'cause I didn't trust myself to keep ignoring the feeling in my gut. The one that tightened every time she touched my things. Marco noticed. Asked why the studio door was suddenly off limits. I told him I was tired of fingerprints on the gold. He kissed my cheek, said, "You work too hard, Ma." But the locks didn't stop her. I woke one Thursday to the safe ajar, the keypad blinking red. I'd changed the code the week before Victor's birthday, then mine. Only 3 people knew it. Me, Marco, and the locksmith who installed it after Victor died. I opened the door with fingers that wouldn't stop shaking. Empty. Not just empty. The trays stacked neatly, the velvet smoothed, like someone had taken their time. And there, on the bottom, the note. I called Marco. He didn't pick up. I called again. Voicemail. I drove to their condo, the note crumpled in my fist. The doorman waved me up. Lila answered in silk pajamas, hair in a messy bun, coffee in hand. "Anita. We weren't expecting, where's my son?" She blinked. "Shower." "Why?" I held up the note. Her face didn't change, not at first. Then a flicker, something between triumph and fear. "You went into my safe." She sipped her coffee. "Technically, it's Marco's safe too. Family property. Family doesn't steal." She laughed, soft. "It's not stealing if it's going to a better home." Marco came out, towel around his waist, hair dripping. "Ma, what's going on?" I didn't answer. Just opened my phone, showed him the eBay listing I'd found at a red light on the way over. My grandmother's pearl choker, listed for $48,000. Seller, Miami. Profile picture. Lila, in a bikini. The necklace gleaming against her skin. He went pale. "Sela." She shrugged. "We needed the cash. The condo fees went up. And that necklace was just sitting there. Sitting there." My voice cracked. "That was Nona's. She wore it the day she came from Italy, with nothing but a suitcase and a baby." Marco looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "You said you were selling your old bags." "I was going to tell you," she said. "Eventually. I left before I said something I couldn't take back." The drive home blurred with tears, and rage, and the smell of her coffee still in my nose. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the studio, the safe open like a mouth, and stared at the security camera Victor had installed years ago. I'd forgotten it was there, tiny, hidden in the smoke detector. I pulled the footage. There she was. 2:46 a.m. Leela, in black leggings, and one of Marco's hoodies. Hair in a ponytail, moving through my house like she owned it. She knew the code. She took her time. Tried on the emerald bracelet in the mirror, held the rubies to the light, slipped everything into a velvet pouch. She even paused to fix her lipstick. I saved the file. Backed it up 3 times. Then I called the one person who'd know what to do. My lawyer, Rosa. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Their anniversary party is Saturday, right? At the Vizca Eye." "Yes, bring the footage. And wear something red." I hung up and opened my sketchbook. For the first time in days, my hands stopped shaking. Rosa's voice stayed with me all week, calm as the Gulf Stream on a still morning. Wear something red. I hadn't worn red since Victor's funeral. Black had felt safer. But I went to the back of my closet and pulled out the silk dress I'd bought for our 40th. The one I never got to wear because he died 3 weeks before. The color was deep, almost blood, with tiny seed pearls along the neckline. I hung it on the door and stared at it like it was armor. The days crawled. Marco texted once, "Ma, can we talk?" I left him on read. Lila posted a selfie from a yacht. My grandmother's pearls around her throat. Caption, "Living my best life." I screenshot it. Added it to the folder labeled evidence. I didn't cook. I didn't answer the phone. I sat in the studio and polished the few pieces I had left in the shop. Simple, silver cuffs. A turquoise ring I'd made for myself after Victor passed. The metal was cool under my fingers. Steady. I started sketching again. Not for customers. For me. A necklace of hammered gold discs, each one etched with a tiny wave. I called it after the storm. Saturday came, humid and bright. Vizcaya Gardens shimmered under the sun, the stone terraces dripping with orchids, the bay glittering behind like spilled diamonds. The party was Lila's production, 300 guests, a string quartet, waiters in white gloves carrying trays of ceviche and passion fruit. She'd rented the entire east lawn. My son's name was on the invitation, but the aesthetic was pure Lila: champagne towers, drone photographers, a stipend repeat with their monogram in gold foil. I arrived late. The valet took my keys with a smile that faltered when he saw my face. Rosa was waiting by the fountain, sleek in navy linen, tablet tucked under her arm like a weapon. She squeezed my hand. "You ready?" I nodded. My palms were damp, but my voice was steady. "Let's end this." We walked the gravel path together. Guests milled in linen, laughter floating over the hedge maze. I spotted Marco near the bar. Tuxedo sharp, hair slicked back. He looked thinner. When he saw me, his face crumpled with relief. Double quotes. "Ma, thank God." Lila said you weren't coming. I didn't answer. Just kept walking. Lila was center stage, of course, in a backless white gown. My ruby pendant nestled between her collarbones like it had always belonged there. She was laughing at something an influencer said, one hand on Marco's arm, the other holding a flute of champagne. The rubies caught the light every time she moved. Rosa touched my elbow. Now. We moved to the small dais where the quartet played. Rosa tapped the microphone. Feedback squealed. Heads turned. "Excuse me," she said, voice smooth as glass. "Mrs. Anita Rossi has a few words for the happy couple." Lila's smile froze. Marco looked confused. I stepped up. The dress whispered against my legs. I felt every eye on me. The weight of 300 strangers and one son who still didn't understand. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. 40 years ago, I began. My husband, Victor, gave me a necklace. Not because it was expensive, but because his mother wore it when she crossed an ocean with nothing but hope. That necklace, and every piece in my safe, carried stories. They were my inheritance, my legacy, my love made solid. I paused. The quartet had stopped. Even the fountain seemed quieter. 3 weeks ago, someone decided those stories belonged to her. I nodded to Rosa. She pressed play on the tablet. The footage projected onto the white wall behind Uzlajar than life. Leela, at 2:46 a.m., hoodie up, fingers dancing over the keypad. The safe opening. The trays sliding out. The ruby pendant lifted to the camera like a trophy. Then, the eBay listing, timestamped the next morning. The pearls around her neck right now. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones came out. Someone whispered, "That's her necklace." Leela went white under her spray tan. "This is ridiculous." Marco grabbed her wrist. "You said you bought those. I was going to pay you back with what?" His voice cracked. "The condo's underwater. We're broke, Lila. You knew that." I kept talking, calm, like I was reading a bedtime story. I could have called the police. I could have pressed charges. But jewelry can be replaced. Trust cannot. I reached into my clutch and pulled out a thick envelope. Walked down the steps. Every eye followed. I stopped in front of Lila. "Inside are the titles to every piece you stole. Signed over to the Lotus House Women's Shelter. They help mothers starting over with nothing. Seems fitting." Leela lunged for the envelope. Rosa stepped between us. Marco was shaking. "Ma, I didn't know." "I know, mijo." I touched his cheek. "But you will now." I turned to the crowd. The rest of my collection, every earring, every bracelet, every stone Victor and I ever set will be sold at auction next month. Proceeds to the shelter. Because some things are worth more than money. A woman near the front started clapping. Then another. Soon, the terrace echoed with it. Not for me. For the truth. Lila ran. Heels clicking on stone, white dress flashing through the garden like a ghost. Marco started after her, then stopped. Looked back at me. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I didn't answer. Just watched him walk away, shoulders bowed, into the maze. Rosa found me later by the koi pond. The party had thinned. Guests slipping out with hushed excuses. The quartet packed up. The champagne towers stood half empty, bubbles gone flat. "You, okay?" she asked. I looked at the water. The fish moved slow, orange and white, like memories. "I will be," I said. She left me there. I stayed until the caterers turned off the lights, until the only sound was the fountain and my own breathing. Then I drove home, windows down, salt wind in my hair. The house felt different, lighter. I opened the safe, still empty, and left it that way. Took the ruby pendant from my purse, the one I'd worn as a decoy, and set it on Victor's bench. It caught the moonlight, deep as heartblood. I didn't sleep. I worked. By dawn, the After the Storm necklace was finished, gold discs, soldered, waves etched, clasp strong. I held it to the light. It was imperfect, real. Mine. Marco came Sunday morning. Alone, eyes red, shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it. "She's gone," he said. Packed a bag. Left the ring. He held out the diamond solitaire I'd helped him pick. It looked small in his palm. "I should have seen it," he said. "Say lies. The spending. I thought if I gave her everything, she'd love me enough to stop wanting more." I took the ring. Set it beside the ruby. "Love isn't a transaction, Marco. It's a choice. Every day." He nodded. Tears fell onto the tile. "Can I stay here? Just until I figure things out?" I opened my arms. He folded into them like he was 10 again, all knees and elbows and sorrow. That night, we ate leftover wedding cake from the freezer. Chocolate, slightly dry. We laughed about how Lila had insisted on gold leaf that cost more than the cake itself. Marco fell asleep on the couch, TV flickering. I covered him with the Afghan Victor's mother knitted. Monday, I opened the shop late. Hung a sign, closed for redesign. Customers understood. Word travels fast in Miami. I spent the week clearing shelves. Packed the remaining heirlooms into velvet boxes, labeled each with its story. The shelter director cried when I delivered them. Said they'd name the new wing after Victor. Marco helped. He learned to polish silver without scratching it. Asked questions about metal temperatures, about why I hammered instead of cast. His hands big, like his father's were, gentle with the tools. One afternoon, a woman came in. Mid-40s, salt and pepper curls, paint under her nails. She introduced herself as Camila, owner of Coral and Clay down the street. Said she'd seen the footage. Wanted to collaborate. Your work has soul, she said. Mine has color. Together, we could make something new. We started small. A bracelet of silver waves and hand-painted ceramic beads. Sold out in 2 days. Then earrings. Then a whole line second tied. Every piece made by women who'd lost something and found a way to build again. Marco moved into the guest room. He cooks now rose con palo that tastes like Victor's, but with more garlic. We eat on the patio, mangoes falling around us like blessings. Some nights, I still check the safe. It's empty, but I leave the door open. A reminder, the rubies are gone. The pearls too. But the stories. They live in the shelter, in the new line. In the way Marco looks at me now, like I'm not just his mother, but his compass. And the red dress. I wore it again. To the auction. Stood on the block myself and told the room why I was letting go. The bidding was fierce. The shelter raised $500,000. I kept one thing. The After the Storm necklace. I wear it every day. It catches the light when I laugh, when I cry, when I teach Marco how to set a stone so it never falls. The storm came. It took what it wanted. But I learned, you don't rebuild with what's left. You rebuild with what you decide to keep. The auction was held in the ballroom of the Biltmore. Chandeliers dripping light like melted honey, the air thick with gardenias and money. I stood at the podium in the red silk again, the After the Storm necklace heavy against my collarbone. Rosa had warned me, the crowd would be ruthless collectors, socialites, women who wore heirlooms like status. I didn't care. I wasn't selling jewelry. I was selling closure. The first lot was the sapphire brooch. The auctioneer's voice rose and fell like a tide. Do I hear 45 to the lady in pearls? 50 now, 52 the gentleman in the back. It's sold for $72,000. The shelter director, Marisol, squeezed my hand from the front row. Her eyes shone. One by one, the pieces went. The emerald bracelet Victor's proposal gift fetched. The pearl choker, the one Leela had worn like a victory flag, broke 6 figures. With every sold, I felt a weight lift, not because the money mattered, but because the stories were moving on. Finding new wrists, new hearts, new mothers who would tell their daughters where the gems came from. Marco stood beside me. Tuxedo borrowed from a friend, hair combed for once. He didn't speak. Just watched the numbers climb, his jaw tight. When the ruby pendant came up Leela's favorite, I thought he might bolt. But he stayed. The bidding war lasted 8 minutes. Final hammer, 120,000. The room erupted. Marco's hand found mine. His palm was damp. After, in the lobby, a reporter from the Miami Herald cornered us. Mrs. Rossi, Any comment on your daughter-in-law's absence? I smiled, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. Some people choose to run from truth. Others choose to carry it. The article ran the next morning. Front page, above the fold. Jeweler's Revenge funds new life for abused mothers. They used a photo of me in the red dress, necklace gleaming, Marco's arm around my shoulders. Leela's name wasn't mentioned. It didn't need to be. The backlash came in waves. First, the anonymous emails. How could you humiliate your own son? Blood is thicker than gems. I deleted them. Then the calls from cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Anita, think of the family name. I let them ring. Marco took the worst of it, friends ghosting, investors pulling out of his latest condo flip. He came home one night with a split lip, said he'd walked into a door. I cleaned the blood with witch hazel and didn't ask questions. Lila surfaced 2 weeks later. A grainy video on a gossip blogger in a Fort Lauderdale motel, hair dyed dark, selling the last of my gold hoops to a pawn shop. The caption, "Fallen socialite hits rock bottom." Marco watched it once, then smashed his phone against the kitchen counter. Shards glittered on the tile like tiny stars. I should have seen it, he said again. His voice was raw from crying. The credit cards. The lies about her brand deals. I thought if I worked harder, I stopped him. You can't love someone into being honest, me. That's not how it works. He nodded. Then asked the question I'd been waiting for. Do you hate her? I thought of Lila at the party, white dress flashing through the garden, rubies swinging like a pendulum. I thought of the note, "These suit me better." I thought of Victor's hands, calloused from years of setting stones. Gentle when he fastened the emerald around my wrist. I hate what she did, I said. But hate is a heavy stone. I've carried enough. The shop reopened the following month. Camila and I had turned the back room into a studio. Long tables, bright lights, shelves of beads and wire. We hired 3 women from the shelter. Rosa, whose husband had broken her arm with a lamp. Jenna, who'd fled Alabama with her toddler and the clothes on her back. Marisol taught them to solder. I taught them to listen to the metal. The first piece they made together was a cup, silver, hammered, inlaid with sea glass, the color of Lila's eyes. We called it Forged Anew. It sold before we could photograph it. Orders poured in. We couldn't keep up. Marco quit real estate. Said the numbers felt hollow now. He took over the books, learned QuickBooks, answered emails with a patience I didn't know he had. Some nights, he'd fall asleep at the kitchen table. Calculator beside his head, the baby monitor from Jenna's son crackling softly. One evening, Camila brought wine and arepas. We sat on the patio, the mango tree dropping fruit with soft thuds. The women laugh-a-dreel laughs, the kind that start in the belly. Rosa told a story about her first attempt at bezel setting. The stone flew across the room and hit Marco in the forehead. He rubbed the spot, grinning. I still have the scar, he said. Proof I'm learning. Later, when the others left, Marco and I washed dishes side by side. The sink was full of wine glasses, the water hot enough to sting. Ma, he said, drying a plate with the towel Victor used to wear over his shoulder. I found something. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. Inside was the diamond solitaire, the engagement ring. Pawn shop in Hialeah, he said. She sold it for $3,000. I bought it back. I turned it over in my palm. The stone was smaller than I remembered. Flawed even. A tiny inclusion near the girdle, like a tear frozen in time. What should we do with it? He asked. I thought of Leela's note. Of the shelter. Of the women learning to hold torches without burning their fingers. Reset it, I said. Make it something new. Something that helps someone start over. He nodded. The next day, we melted the band, kept the diamond. Jenna set it in a simple pendant, surrounded by tiny seed pearls from a broken strand. We gave it to Marisol for the shelter's first graduatea, young mother who'd just gotten her GED. She wore it to her new job interview. Got the position. Summer turned to fall. The shop thrived. Second Tide was featured in Vogue's two-page spread with photos of the women at their benches, hands steady, eyes bright. Camila and I flew to New York for a trunk show. Marco stayed behind, ran the store. Sent me daily updates with selfies of the team wearing matching aprons that said craft and courage. Lila tried to come back once. Showed up at the shop on a Tuesday, hair back to blonde. Designer bag slung over her shoulder like nothing had happened. I just want to talk, she said. Her voice was smaller now. Marco won't answer my calls. The women looked up from their benches. Sirs's torch hissed. Jenna's baby cooed from the playpen in the corner. I didn't move from my stool. There's nothing left to say. She opened her mouth, closed it. Looked at the display case full of new designs, none of them hers. I was going to pay it back, she whispered. With what? I asked. More lies. She left without another word. The bell above the door jingled like a warning. That night, Marco and I walked the beach at Crandon Park. The sand was cool, the moon full and low. He carried his shoes. I carried the after the storm necklace in my pocket, the chain tangled from the day. Do you ever miss her? He asked. I thought of the girl she'd been at the wedding, laughing, barefoot on the dance floor, promising to love him forever. I miss who I thought she was, I said. But I don't miss the weight of pretending. He nodded. We walked in silence, the waves erasing our footprints behind us. Winter came early. The shelter broke ground on the new wing, the Victor Rossi Sanctuary. Marco spoke at the ceremony. Said his father taught him that real wealth wasn't in banks, but in hands that create. The women wore their second timepieces. The pendant gleamed on the graduate's neck as she cut the ribbon. I stood in the back. Red dress swapped for jeans and a blazer, after the storm catching the sun. A reporter asked for a quote. I smiled. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find what was never yours to keep. The article ran with a photo of me and Marco, arms around each other, the shelter rising behind us like a promise. That night, I sat in the studio alone. The safe was gone, replaced by a wall of tools, bright and sharp. I opened my sketchbook to a fresh page. Drew a ring. Simple band, hammered gold, a single wave etched inside. For Marco, when he's ready. The house is quieter now. No Lila's laughter, echoing off the tiles. No Marco pacing about, unpaid bills. Just the hum of the torch, the clink of metal, the soft breathing of women learning to trust their hands again. I still set Victor's coffee cup out. But now it's for the morning. Shift Rosa likes it strong. Jenna takes milk. The cup is chipped, but it holds. The storm took the jewels. It gave me something better. A family forged in fire. Not perfect, but real. Spring arrived in Miami like a slow exhalahibiscus, blooming red along the fence. The air thick with plumeria and possibility. The shop had outgrown itself. We moved to a larger space on Calle Ocho, windows painted turquoise. A mural of waves and women's hands wrapping the corner wall. Camila found the building. Marco negotiated the lease. Rosa designed the logo. Jenna's toddler, now walking, left sticky fingerprints on every glass case. We named it Second Tide Collective. The sign went up on a Thursday. We opened on a Sunday with cafecito and pastelitos, the line stretching to the corner. I turned 61 that year. No party, just dinner on the patio, Marco grilling snapper, the women bringing dishes from their childhoods, Rosa's moros y cristianos, Yena's cornbread with honey butter, Camila's arepas stuffed with queso fresco. We ate under string lights, the mango tree heavy with fruit, the baby asleep in a hammock strung between two posts. Someone put on Celia Cruz. We danced barefoot on the grass. Jewelry flashing in the dark, like fireflies. Marco had started dating again, quietly, a teacher from the shelter's GED program, soft-spoken, dark curls, laughed with her whole body. Her name was Elena. She came to Sunday dinners, brought flan, called me Señora Anita, until I told her to stop. Marco watched her the way Victor used to watch McCareful, like she might disappear if he blinked. I didn't push. Just set an extra plate. The Victor Rossi Sanctuary opened in June. 2 stories. Pale yellow stucco. A courtyard with a fountain shaped like an open hand. Marisol gave me the first tour. 20 beds, a nursery, a jewelry classroom in the back, where residents could learn the craft. The first graduate-a-thon with the reset diamond pendant, the intro class. She wore the pendant every day. Said it reminded her she was worth more than what she'd lost. Lila tried one last time. A letter, forwarded from the old shop address. Expensive stationery, her perfume still clinging to the paper. I opened it in the studio, torch hissing beside me. Anita, I know you hate me. You have every right. I was drowning, and I thought the jewelry would keep me afloat. I was wrong. Marco won't speak to me. The divorce papers came last week. I'm in rehab. For the spending. For the lying. For everything. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know the rubies are gone. I sold them to pay debts. The money's gone too. I kept one thing. The note you found. I read it when I need to remember who I became. I'm sorry. Lili read it twice. Folded it small. Slipped it into the drawer with Victor's old sketches. I didn't write back. Marco asked about it later, saw the envelope. What did she say? That she's sorry. He nodded. Didn't ask more. Summer brought hurricanes. We boarded the windows, moved the tools to higher shelves, filled the freezer with ice. The storm passed over. Night wind, howling like a warning, rain lashing the bougainvillea until petals plastered the driveway. Morning came calm, the sky washed clean. We swept glass from the patio, laughed at the baby trying to eat a fallen mango. Pit and all. One afternoon, a woman came to the collective. Mid-50s, Cuban accent, thick as café con leche, hands scarred from years in a factory. She'd seen the Vogue spread. Wanted to learn. I have nothing, she said. But I have time. And I want to make something beautiful. I gave her a bench. Showed her how to hold the torch steady. Her first piece was a ring silver, twisted like a rope, set with a piece of sea glass the color of storm clouds. She wore it every day after. Said it felt like holding the ocean in her fist. Marco proposed to Elena in the fall. On the beach at sunrise, the ring a simple band of hammered gold with a tiny wave inside my design. His words etched beside it. After the storm. She said yes, before he finished the question. The wedding was small. Patio again. String lights. Camila made the cake guava and cream cheese, 3 tiers. I wore the red dress one last time. Gave it to Jenna after. She altered it for the shelter's prom night. Turned the hem into a cape for a girl who'd never owned anything new. The collective grew. We started a scholarship, the Lila Fund, ironically, for women who'd lost everything to someone else's greed. First recipient was a 10-year-old whose boyfriend sold her grandmother's wedding ring for drugs. She made a necklace of broken chain links soldered into a heart, sold it for $500. Bought her first laptop. I stopped checking the old safe spot. The wall was covered now photos of the women, their pieces, their children. Victor's tools hung in a shadow box. The half-finished solitaire from the day he died sat in the center, stone, still unset. I left it that way. Some things aren't meant to be finished. One night, Marco found me in the studio late. I was working on a new PC, a cuff of rose gold, wide etched with the outline of a house. The windows were tiny holes. Light would shine through when worn. For who? He asked. For me, I said. A reminder. Home isn't the walls. It's the light inside. He watched me solder, the flame blue and steady. Ma, he said quietly. Do you ever think about keeping any of it? The old pieces. I set the torch down. The metal glowed, cooling to pink. They're not gone, I said. They're in the shelter. In the scholarship. In the way Rosa holds her head higher now. In the ring you gave Alina. They're everywhere. He nodded. Then, I kept one thing too. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a single ruby earring, Leela's favorite from the pendant set. He'd found it in the condo, caught in the carpet. I don't know why I saved it, he said. Felt wrong to throw it away. I took it. Held it to the light. The stone was deep, flawed, beautiful. Reset it, I said. Into something small. A stud, for the baby. When she's older. He smiled. The first real one in months. Winter came gentle. The collective hosted its first holiday. Marketables, off jewelry, pottery, woven scarves. The shelter residents sold beside us. The Babino Twarin between legs, sticky with candied pecans. Elena's belly was round with their first. Marco built her a rocking chair from mango wood. Sanded it smooth, oiled it until it gleamed. I wore the new cuff that night. The house outline caught the fairy lights, windows glowing. Someone asked where I got it. I made it, I said. After the storm. The phrase became our tagline. Second Tide, crafted after the storm. We printed it on cards, on boxes, on the aprons the women wore. It wasn't just jewelry anymore. It was proof. Some nights, I still walk the beach alone. The sand cool, the waves steady. I carry the ruby stud in my pocket, finished now, small and perfect. I'll give it to the baby on her 16th birthday. Tell her the story. Not of theft. Of rebuilding. The house is full again. Not with gems. With voices. Laughter. The clink of tools. The hiss of torches. The soft breathing of women learning to trust their hands. I kept the note. The one that started it all. It's in the shadow box now, beside Victor's tools. Not as a warning. As a beginning. The storm took everything shiny. It left me what matters. Light. Love. And the courage to start again. For more stories like this, like and subscribe and say hello in the comments section.